Good evening, everyone. How are we all doing? A new face for anyone already watching. We'll get into introductions and everything like that. Good to see some of you already tuning in. A new stream coming for you all on a Monday evening from Fantasy Football Hub. If you guys like what you see, leave a like on the stream. But what we're basically going to do is have first reactions to the game week just gone. We'll have a look at my team. We'll answer questions on your team, but we'll review a few of the games that we've gone. There's always going to be key topics, key things that don't go maybe as well or as we expected to. So we'll go through all of that as well. First time, so I am just trying to get my bearings. If someone in the chat could just let me know that everything is working and sounding as you think it should be, then that would be great. But we can dive straight in. Any of you guys in the chat, it's going to be much more of a Q&A based stream. So all your questions, all your chat about the game week, please do fire the questions away and we'll get to them. My game week, I was pretty pleased with it. So I played my wild card going into game week 12, scored 75 points, went for the very original back four of Ramsdale, Trent, James and Cancelo. And then the midfield five, Salah, Foden was a big disappointment. Wanted more from Foden, as I think a lot of you probably did as well. I nearly went for Bernardo Silva. I didn't quite do it in the end. I just didn't think his sort of underlying numbers were good enough for it to be sustainable. Now, he scored again in game week 12. Let me turn the light up a little bit. He scored again in game week 12, so maybe I made a mistake there. But Gallagher, Jota, happy with them. We'll talk about Jota in a minute. I like him, just worry that he's injured now. Son, Wilson and Antonio up front. So I was pretty pleased with it. 75 overall, moving me up. Green arrow from 100k to 87k. So pretty pleased with it as a game week. Thank you guys for letting me know that it is all working well. But yeah, any questions for the game week 13 transfer plans, anything like that? In terms of, let me get my transfer page up. We'll have a quick chat and then we'll dive into some of the games that we've had this game week and talk about some of the key talking points, players we should be buying, maybe some players that we've got that are continuing to not return. All of that. So my team at the moment, I have one free transfer. This is how it is. I'm pretty happy with it. There's a lot of talk about big at the back and maybe whether I should be thinking of going and getting White to the likes of Chilwell, White up to Diaz or someone like that. The only issue with that I keep talking about is it doesn't strengthen my bench nearly as much as I'd like over the Christmas period. If I do White up to Chilwell or White up to Diaz, then my bench would be Livramento, and then I'd have to downgrade someone elsewhere. But having a bench option from your midfield or a bench option from someone up front, you have to invest so much more than if you have a cheap defender on your bench. So there is a chance that I'd free up funds in a few weeks to do White up to Chilwell. But at the moment, I'm pretty happy with my defence. Midfield, again, I'm very happy with. Jota, yellow flagged. I think we'll have to just wait and see what happens with him. But pretty happy. 7.5 million is a great price. If he's starting up front for Liverpool, then I'm pretty happy with that, no matter sort of the fixture congestion. If Firmino's out, the key thing with Jota is that it's all about his likely minutes, and he's a great asset when we know he's going to play consistently, but there's always that risk that doesn't happen. But 7.5 million, now that I know he's going to be starting if Firmino stays out for the next few weeks, is great. So I'll wait to hear on injury news for him. And then up front, we've got Wilson and Antonio. Wasn't best pleased with the pair of them this week. Not exactly what I wanted. And I actually realised now that Wilson is on 4 yellow cards. Picked up his third one in game week 12. So before game week 12, it wasn't really an issue. You don't buy someone who's on 3 yet, not buy someone just because they have 3 yellow cards. But now he's on 4. You run the risk of him picking up a yellow card and being suspended for Norwich, which would be a real pain, completely ruin the point of why I bought him. But then there is Burnley at home after that as well. So I just hope he doesn't get booked in either of the next two, but really that Arsenal fixture, so I can have him for Norwich. If I have to sell him ahead of Burnley, then I have to sell him ahead of Burnley, but it's that Norwich at home fixture that I hope he doesn't get suspended for. But now he's on 4 yellow cards is definitely a real pain. Game week 2, I think he's had one in the last 3 in the last 4 games actually. So hopefully someone's having a word in his ear about a bit of discipline on the pitch. Yes, you've got a squad of Lloris, Trent, Cancelo, Rudiger, James, Duffy, Salison, Foden, Gallagher, Smith Rowe, Antonio Hwang, Tony. What do I think? Made an early transfer of Mbeumo to Smith Rowe. So I really like Smith Rowe. I don't necessarily think he's got returns in him that we've seen so far this season. I think particularly there's been a couple of goals recently where he's taken his chance very well. The ball has fallen to him. There's been defensive errors. I don't think he'll continue to get those, but at his price, he's still a great option. So I don't dislike that move at all. Then elsewhere, we've got big at the back defense, but if you've got it, great. Rudiger, if you had a luxury transfer, Rudiger to Chilwell would be something that I'd probably want to do, but probably not a transfer that you'd make unless you've got one to burn. Then in midfield, Salison, Foden, Gallagher, Smith Rowe. Again, I really like. The forward line, I think, could do with work. Tony's an interesting one now that he's got a return in the previous game week. Is what do you go and do with him? The upcoming fixtures are okay. Everton look really poor, so you probably want to go and keep him for that fixture. You don't need to sell him. Tottenham away, probably not the hardest fixture. Could be easier. Okay. Leeds and Watford. So a goal this week and a change in system for Brentford suddenly makes it feel like maybe he's not such a sell as I think a lot of people thought he would be going into this game week. So, and then I would say Hwang is a sell, but if we look at your bench being Duffy and then 2 others in that whole team, then like Hwang down to Davis, for example, just feels so easy. Because you don't need him in your squad at all. Because you've got such a 15, unless I'm missing someone. No, you've got such a strong 15 that having Hwang in your team, he's going to sit basically last on your bench every week with Duffy. There's no need for both of them in your squad. So I'd probably free up a little bit of money. Hwang downgrade would probably be the way that I would look if I had that team. I don't think his underlying numbers are not good enough to be starting him consistently. He's got good fixtures over the next 2. So if you want to play him in those, then potentially, keep him for the next 2. It's Norwich and Burnley. But after that, I think a downgrade of Hwang to free up money to invest elsewhere is definitely where I'd be looking. Would I do Diaz to James? Diaz rotated slightly more than last season, James. So if you've got Cancelo, then, I probably would do that. I think James's minutes will go down slightly, yes. Over Christmas, there will be rotation, which I don't think Diaz will get. I think he was rested in game week 12 because they got a big Champions League game midweek. But I still think he's first choice with either of the other ones. I still would be making that move. I think the upside of James, he can outscore, and they were talking about it on one of the podcasts I was listening to today, that James's points per start this season is crazy high, and even his points per appearance, so if you include when he comes on for 5 minutes, he's still one of the highest in the league. James has the ability to outscore Diaz. Diaz has to play 3 games to get 18 points. James can easily do that in every 2 games. If he played 3 game weeks, his attacking threat is so much that I just see him outscoring Diaz. So I probably would make that sideways move, especially if you don't have Chilwell, but even if you do, I probably would do that move. Evening, Fergie. How are we doing? My midfield, I know. Foden's the one that bugs me a little bit. I went with him because I think he was one of those template picks. I did look at Bernardo Silva's a lot. His underlying stats weren't great. It's probably the one change that if I now went back and said, what one thing would you change on your wildcard, it would be Foden. But it's because he blanked. He could have had a return, so we'll see how he gets on the next couple of weeks. How about 5 at the back? Upgrading Duffy to Chilwell and downgrading Hwang. Yeah, that definitely could work. But a back 5 of Trent, Cancelo, Rudiger, James, Chilwell is a lot to be invested in the defence. Again, you'd be having to bench one of those three of those attackers as well. So again, Hwang would be last on your bench, but still doing that again gives you a massive benching headache every week. You'll have Smith Rowe and Tony on your bench every week. So although I think Duffy up to Chilwell is a good move in theory, it just gives you such a massive benching headache that I don't think you need to do, especially when you've got Rudiger and James. I'd probably roll with double Chelsea defence and look to invest that money elsewhere, even if it's Smith Rowe or Gallagher or Tony upgrade. When we've got, Calvert-Lewin coming back, there will be places that you want to invest this money. Something I see people falling into the trap a lot of is having money sat in the bank and feeling they need to spend it. Just because a player is more doesn't necessarily mean A, they're a better player, and B, you should go and buy it. There will be moments in the season where you wish you had money in the bank. It's like when I play my wildcard, I really almost went for Zaha. And Zaha versus Gallagher is a 50-50, but I knew later down the line there'll be a time where that $1.5 million will come in handy. So having him over Zaha in my team just meant that I could do other things with it. So I wouldn't necessarily think you need to invest that money elsewhere straight away. The option that you want to do it with will make itself known in the few game weeks time, but just Hwang down to Davies this week definitely feels worthwhile. Antonio, a hard sell. Any premium forwards worth it? So we'll wait and see what happens with United. I think Kane is an interesting one. If you looked on paper for their next 4 fixtures, and Fergie's asking about Spurs as well, I do think with Burnley, Brentford, Norwich, that Leeds fixture, given the way they've performed in recent weeks, was always going to be the hardest of the lot. Now, Son being in my team, he disappointed me. Kane was much more... I think second half, Kane came out and was really on it and had chances and could easily have scored. He hit the post. Now, Son did hit the bar, but he was playing a much more periphery role than we saw from Kane. If Son's going to get returns in a game, Kane is as well. I don't see Son hauling and Kane not being involved in anything. So I really like Kane short term. Ronaldo does play Chelsea this week. So after that, again, I still think he's a nice option with the fixture run they've got. But I find it difficult. I wouldn't be selling Antonio now. Although the fixtures short term are rubbish and they're pretty difficult for them. City and Chelsea in the next sort of 3. But over Christmas, Burnley, Norwich, Southampton, Watford, Palace, Leeds, and then Watford again. It's really good. So there aren't enough forwards around that price that are doing well for you to go and get. Jimenez is a short-term punt, but it's a lot of money to be losing in him. So for me, Antonio's a hold. If you can bench him this week, then I may do it myself. I've got Ben White currently as, if I go into my pick team, I've got Ben White currently first on my bench. Newcastle at home. I could easily play him over Antonio. I wouldn't worry about Antonio. He's still in a team that is scoring goals and creating chances. So let me know what you guys think about him, but I'm still pretty happy to hold him. I don't see enough other forwards to go to that I would sell him for is the problem. Would I do Rudiger to James? This is the thing. It's one of those moves that each week you think, if James doesn't get an attacking return, it's not worth it. But over the course of the next 5-10 game weeks, you'd expect the move to pay off. So if you have a free transfer, I would probably go and do it. St. Maximin over Wilson. And is it worth getting rid of Antonio? So now if I had to buy one, I would be buying St. Maximin. Not because I necessarily think he's a better option than Wilson, but it's the yellow cards that would really bug me if I was going to buy Wilson. He's on 4 yellow cards. So a yellow card in either of the next, well, in theory up to game week 20, but you are buying them for the next 3 games. If he gets booked against Arsenal and he misses Norwich, or he gets booked against Norwich and misses Burnley, you'd kick yourself that you didn't go for the other one. I'd probably not put myself in that position where it's a bit of a risk. St. Maximin looked really good at the weekend, got his return, so I probably would go with St. Maximin if I had to buy one of them. My chat is over there, and I need to find a way to make it more central, but it's just the way it is at the moment. Smith Rowe to Jota or Son to Mane? I'm not sure. Well, again, wait on the news on Jota. I wouldn't be going and doing either of those this week, I don't think. Mane has a good fixture, but I wouldn't be selling Son. I know they didn't look great this weekend, but you've got to, if you've bought into Son, the next 3 fixtures are good enough that I still want to give him all that time. If I had to do one of those moves, Smith Rowe up to Jota, given what I've said that I don't necessarily think Smith Rowe is going to keep ticking along at the rate he is, then I would go and do that. But yeah, I would wait on both those moves, especially given that Jota is flagged. Wait and see what we hear from Champions League midweek. Hibbo, how are we doing? Welcome. Nice to see some familiar faces. As Fergie said, if we could all like the stream, that would be great. How about downgrading Antonio and upgrading Foden to Mane? Can be a great premium differential. So I was looking at this earlier actually, and I think he's the second highest scoring midfielder. Now, of course, Salah's done so well, so we're not really looking at him. But if you look at these fixtures, and again, it will depend on Mane, because if Jota's going to play the next 4 weeks, no matter how good an option Mane is, I just don't think I can see myself spending the extra 4 million on Mane over Jota. Now, if he's back soon, this run of fixtures is still good, and I think Mane has looked really good and gone under the radar a bit because of how well Salah's done, because there's always been Jota in the picture. Would I go and do it? I would potentially. Now, the only issue is if we're going to want Ronaldo in a couple of weeks, and if you go to Mane, it blocks it quite a lot. Now, I know it's United, I know they've not looked good, but this fixture run from game week 15 to game week 27 is probably one of the best, if not the best, fixture run we've ever seen in FPL. So I like the move of going for Mane, but I just don't think I'd do it knowing that I'll probably want to go and get in Ronaldo for this run of games. Last question, Alex. Go for it. Keep firing them away. Vardy, what's wrong with him? Fixtures look good, but form is terrible. Again, this is my thing with forwards, is I'd be interested to know who you're going to if you're selling Vardy. Now, he hasn't looked good. Another blank this week. But with those fixtures, if you've got a good plan and there's a player you want to target and bring in, then great. But he does play Watford, Southampton and Newcastle in the next 4. If you don't need the money, then hold him. If you're going to downgrade to someone just to have that money sat in the bank, again, I probably wouldn't do it. But if you're downgrading him to bring in another midfielder that you want, or bring in a Chelsea defender again, then that's worthwhile. I wouldn't just sell him just to leave the money sat around, because I do think he's got a good chance over these next 4. But if you want that money for something else, then I think he's a great way to free up those funds. Watford, Southampton, Newcastle in the next 4. Yes, it's good, and yes, he's been poor, but if you don't need the money, I'd give him the chance over these games. My problem with Antonio is his numbers have been quite poor recently. So they have, but if you've watched, this is where I like to have a combination of eye test and stats. Because if you've watched West Ham, his stats are not as good as they were. But if you've watched him, especially I think it was against Liverpool when they won 3-2, he could easily have come away with that with a goal and an assist if things had done slightly different. Like if Bowen had scored and it hadn't been the rebound that had been scored, he would have had an assist. Fornals, he could have easily have squared that to Antonio, and then we wouldn't be having this conversation. So I think there are a few things here with him that the stats versus eye test is a bit different. I'm quite happy to keep owning him because I don't think there's enough forwards that I'd really want to go to instead of him. Sell Vardy, Mbeumo and Lamptey for Dennis King, Jota and Reece James. Again, if we knew exactly, pending Jota news, yes. But if that's a -8, then I wouldn't do it. If it was a -4, I probably would. Dennis and Josh King, I'd probably favour Dennis. He's had 3 double-digit returns this season. Jota I like, and Reece James I like. I probably would for a -4, not for a -8 this week. I'd wait and do one extra this week. Let me just get the fixtures up. This week. Yeah, for example, like if Leeds still have their injured players out, Brighton at home, like Lamptey, you can still play him this week. Or, if Mbeumo's still fit, that Everton side don't look good and they've still got a lot of injuries. So if you had to do 2 of them and wait on Jota might miss 1 game, then you can play Mbeumo home to Everton, who've looked really poor. So maybe I like the moves together, but just think about the hits that are maybe involved in it. But yeah, those moves are good overall. I like them. Best player to transfer Mbeumo in 1.7 in the bank. So that gives you about 7.5 or so. you have Rafinha already, maybe just bench him and do Bowen. Bowen is a nice one if you think you can wait that long to go and get him. Bernardo Silva, if you don't have a City midfielder, I do like Bernardo Silva and think he can offer a consistent sort of tick along of points for the next few weeks, and especially over Christmas when they've got a nice run. He's played every game this season for City, so I do like him as well. Gallagher, if you don't have him, I still think is a nice option. But if you can wait for Bowen, those West Ham fixtures come game week 16. West Ham double up in attack is definitely a possibility, with Bowen taking some set pieces as well. So yeah, if you can wait on Bowen and you don't need him until then, I think that's probably the option I'd go with. Ollie, how are we doing? Good evening, everyone. If De Bruyne are going to be a few games more, I'd say Gundogan will become their best asset after Cancelo. So Tom, from who got the assist, brought in Gundogan this week. I do think short term, while he's out, he will be a good option. And actually, if anything, I think that when De Bruyne comes back, they may find a way, play Foden on the left, and then Bernardo Silva, De Bruyne, Gundogan as that sort of midfield 2 and centre forward, with Jesus on the right being their strongest starting team at the moment. So even when he's back, I do think he's a nice option. I just want to see those returns and hear a bit more on the De Bruyne injury, but I definitely do like him as a pick. I'd probably go Bernardo Silva, slightly safer at the moment, but I do like Gundogan, especially if you're after a differential. Evening, Philip. How are we doing? Thinking further ahead. No, he's seen as bad value, but it's Firmino worth getting in. So everyone, I heard someone talk about this the other day, and it did make me think. They said, well, if we only don't want Jota when Firmino's not around, then when Firmino's back, why don't we buy him? Again, it's the rotation between them. We, at the moment, don't know how long they're going to be at the African Cup of Nations for. There's talk that they only go away for 2 game weeks or so, which means it's too short a period to jump on and off Firmino. If they're away for longer, then yeah, by all means go for Jota and Firmino, but there's talk that they're only going to be away for a couple of weeks or so, so I would just wait on that one. Dennis, you're going to roll the dice on Cornet. They've looked good. The next few fixtures not bad for Burnley as well. I do like him as an option. Dennis loves the yellow card. He does. So I owned him earlier in the season and have since sold him. But I don't think he's a bad option just to sit on your bench. The Watford fixtures as well. I always, in my mind now, have what are their Christmas fixtures like. If I'm bringing in a player who is going to sit on my bench, I'm still thinking, they're going to come off my bench over Christmas because there might be some rotation. So not bad. 16 to 18, they're not bad. 19 Wolves, they're pretty good if you want them as a rotation option, especially over Christmas. So I quite like that. Is a back 5 of double Chelsea defence, Cancelo and Trent a viable option moving forward? Need to tweak the template to gain rank. So double Chelsea and double City. The issue with that, and I spoke about it earlier, is your bench. There will be rotation for James and Chilwell over Christmas, and if you have 5 at the back, you have to spend a lot of money to have a good bench, because you have to have probably 2 midfielders sat on your bench, and realistically, to get to a midfielder or even a forward that you want to come off your bench, you could go up front to the likes of Dennis, yeah, but that's still 0.8 million above the base price. In midfield, it's even more. It's almost $1.5 million now that you're needing to spend on someone, maybe $1 million. But to get those 2 bench players, you're spending $2 million over the minimum price that you could buy in those positions. Whereas if you have a 4 at the back or a 3 at the back, it's $500,000 per player. So if I'm going 3 at the back, my bench is investing $1 million above the base price. Whereas if you're going 5 at the back, you're spending $2 million. So it's just worth thinking about. I don't think 5 at the back is worth it because of this. 4 at the back can definitely work with just one cheap defender as an option, but I'm not sure I'd necessarily go for the 5 at the back. I'd probably not want Diaz in that list. I'd probably go 4 at the back because it helps strengthen your bench. And if it goes wrong, although I don't see it going wrong, it is difficult to undo, as Cole in the chat is saying. Bob says he got 86 points this week. Wild card not active. Tried many times, cost me 20 points. Have you heard of this? Wildcard will not activate. I haven't heard of it. Again, happy to help on Twitter, if you need, DMs are always open, so feel free to go and ask there. I've never heard of that before. Was thinking of downgrading Jimenez to a 4.4 and Duffy up to Cancelo after the next two. Yeah, I was going to say, if you have Jimenez in your team and you're keeping him for the next two, I hope, of Norwich and Burnley. Yes, Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea very soon after that, with Brighton as well. By all means, get rid. But if you've got Jimenez or even Hwang, he's fine for the next two games, I think. Transferred in Van Dijk instead of Jota as third Liverpool slot. Gundogan instead of Jota. Quite a differential way to go. I don't dislike Van Dijk. Interesting, it's been a long time since he scored, which would be not a worry, but at 6.7 million, when you've got the likes of Diaz, Trent, Cancelo, James, Chilwell, all getting probably more than him. I don't know if you've used up your 3 Chelsea spots. I don't dislike it, and I quite like Gundogan as a differential, but at a similar price, there are lots of others that I think will score similar points to what you're going to get from Van Dijk. I'm not sold on how good value he is at the moment at 6-7. Not to say he won't get points, and I think he will. So if you've got the spare money to spend and it was sat in your bank, then fine. But it's my camera. Thoughts on Mbuemo to Gallagher? I do like it. Gallagher's looked really good. Returns are there. There's a lot of talk about whether his return to dry up with Milivojevic plays. Potentially, but he's the best option at his price. Under 6.5 million over Christmas. They have really nice run of fixtures like Everton, Southampton, Watford, Tottenham, Norwich. I think he'll play almost every game. He can run and run. So I think he's a really nice option, especially because you don't need to be worrying about having other players in about you, because you'll have the likes of James, Chilwell, who can get rotated. Having a few players that don't have Champions League in the build-up, aren't in the sort of cup still, are just going to most likely be involved in every game is a real benefit going into Christmas. So yeah, I really like Gallagher. Cancelo's killing you. Currently got Trent, James and Rudiger, sub Semedo and Livramento. Semedo up to Cancelo after the next two games, or even before, it screams out to me when I read your defence. The next two Wolves games are good. He's not getting that many attacking returns though, so as soon as you can, I would look at upgrade of Semedo into Cancelo. His price is just going to keep rising. What game week am I looking to use my bench boost? Kay says. So I don't know. I'm a big advocate of waiting for double game weeks to play all of my chips apart from the first wildcard. So I'll wait and see when those fall and I'll play it in a double game week. It just means that even if it goes badly, you're still got your base of points that you can score is pretty high. Especially now that we've got the likes of Foster, because we know that he's pretty nailed to play every game. And normally the bench boost is partly a problem because of that bench keeper. That you think, oh, I've got to use a transfer to bring him in and I've got loads of money sat on my bench. So Foster makes it really good that you can plan much better for a bench boost. But yeah, I'll be waiting for a double game week, I think. African Cup of Nations takes place 9th of January to the 6th of February. So that's about, I think that's 3 game weeks if they go, 4 game weeks if they go to them all, because they'll probably miss one afterwards. But there is talk about Mane and Salah not going straight away and joining their team later into the tournament. So we haven't had confirmation about when they'll be going. Diaz to Ben White and Mbuemo to Bernardo. You already own Jesus and Cancelo as City players, or should I transfer Diaz to James? I'd probably Diaz to James, I think. Especially if you've got Jesus. Yeah, Diaz to James would probably be where I would look, and I'd look elsewhere as an Mbuemo replacement. Gallagher is my number one if you don't have him already. So I would be looking to go. It is a sideways price move, but that's the way I'd be looking. That I'd go Mbuemo to Gallagher. Following up on your earlier question, you have James, Chile, Trent, and Cancelo already. Planning to go 5 at the back with Van Dijk mentioned earlier. I feel he can get a couple of attacking returns in the next 5. I mean, he could do. He hasn't scored. They haven't scored many corners this year, and he hasn't scored a goal in a very long time. I just don't think that, for example, if you wanted to go like Diaz, for example, with their fixture run over Christmas, I'd be saving the 500,000 and going on a double City defence if you want to go to a back 5. There are enough good, like Livramento, although his fixtures are not great for the next few, still think it's worth having one cheap option in your defence. But I would go double City before I went double Liverpool. I think there's so many more clean sheets. City control games like Liverpool don't. You don't see City, I know they lost 2-0 to Palace because of the red card, but like that Liverpool 3-2 loss to West Ham just reminded me that they're capable of that. Whereas City, you just don't see that happening really, do you? Would you bring in Jota before the UCL game, have extra funds for the move? If you have exact, is he meant to rise in price tonight? Are we getting a price rise from... I wouldn't want to do it before Champions League. Especially because you don't know, not only if he's going to play in minutes, but we haven't even had a press conference. Is Jota meant to rise in price tonight? If you have exact funds, that's really difficult. He's not meant to be rising tonight, Daniel. From what I'm looking at. Let me check. I don't see a predicted rise for Jota anywhere, so I wouldn't worry about it. So I would just wait on more news. Livra time to go, 4.8 max, budget only though. I don't think so, because although his fixtures are not great, who in that bracket do we particularly want, and who particularly stands out? If I go to, and we just have a look at them in defenders, and you had 4.8, perfect when it lines up. Who here are we really going to be bringing in? You could go to one of the Palace guys. Their fixtures over Christmas are not bad, but they did just concede 3 to Burnley. Dyer, yes, he got an attacking return, but they look like they could concede a lot of goals. Again, the clean sheets are not there for them. White, not a bad pick if you want to go there, but I don't think it's worth a transfer. I know someone was mentioning in the chat earlier about Ben Johnson of West Ham. I think it's his place to lose at the moment, but I think it could very easily be lost, because we saw it with Arsenal this week that their left back Tavares has looked great, but it was his place to lose. But now I think he's lost it. I think we'll see Tierney come back in, and I do think it's that easy for Johnson as well, that Soufal will come back in and he will take his place back as soon as he possibly can. So I wouldn't be buying Ben Johnson. Going into Christmas, it's just too much of a risk. When they have 3 games a week, so easily Soufal could be given a game. Even if it's Johnson's place over those fixtures, I wouldn't be going with Johnson yet. Steve's not convinced on Spurs assets yet, nor are any of us, I don't think. Hanging on to Vardy for the next few game weeks, got 2 free transfers. If you've got Vardy, I'd probably just hold him and not go to a Spurs asset. I wouldn't blame you for that. Currently second in the Fantasy Football Hub Double Up League. Very nice. Well done with that. Yeah, if you've got Vardy, the upcoming fixtures are nice enough that I'd probably chance it if you don't need the money elsewhere. Play Wilson on game week 13 or play Antonio. You also have Ramsdale, but I feel like Newcastle will score. I'd probably play Wilson over Antonio, although I have Ramsdale as well in my team selection. Wilson is starting this game. There's a chance that Antonio doesn't, and I may, in theory, I could play Ben White over Antonio and still have Wilson. But if I was to drop one of my 2 forwards here, I would drop Antonio this week. Any thoughts on getting Ronaldo in? Yeah, so I do plan on doing it around game week 16. Son, Spurs looked not great yesterday, and it seems like a very easy way for me to go and get him back in. Game week 16 is also when we may see Firmino coming back into the picture. So I may use Jota as a downgrade, but it's also when I want to be selling Wilson as well. So a Wilson downgrade, Son downgrade, Wilson to Ronaldo, and then Son and Jota as my ways of getting the money is probably the way I'm going to go. I am interested to see how they line up, because it may be that someone like Rashford, it may be someone like Sancho, Greenwood starts getting starts as well. That means maybe Ronaldo's 12.5 price range isn't needed if I'm not going to captain him, and I could go to one of those midfielders instead. But for the moment, I think I'm planning on getting him in, and it being Wilson that makes way for him. Elsewhere, Antonio to Benteke. Benteke is not a bad shout, and I've seen it's one of those things that he's under the radar, and I think a few people are talking about him. But as soon as we get a couple of points out of someone, they then really dive into come onto the radar. 9-5, 3 returns in the past 5. Well, 4 if you include the 2 goals. The upcoming fixtures are nice as well. Villa looked better defensively, but they'll still concede chances. Leeds United should play every game over Christmas as well. Not a bad, probably one of my favourite cheap forwards as well. I wouldn't be selling Antonio for him because I like Antonio from game week 16 more than I like Benteke. But I don't think he's a bad cheap option if you want to go there. Considering Reguilon to James or Foden to Jota. Oh, and Foden to Jota. I don't hate those moves. I don't necessarily think they need making though, because the next 3 are really nice for Spurs. Reguilon looked really good. I'd probably hold him for those 3. And Foden to Jota, again, Jota may be a really short-term punt if Firmino's going to be back, and if Jota's injured again. I'd probably just hold fire on that a little bit. If you are set on doing the other one and Jota's out, then there are cheaper mids like Bernardo Silva and Gundogan that you could go to as well. I don't think I would be racing to sell Reguilon ahead of their fixtures, despite how good James has been. Gueye is an alternative to Livramento. Best fixtures and has bonus point. Yeah, so yeah, I like Palace defence. I just try and be realistic when I'm looking at defences, and maybe I'm pessimistic with the players that I own, but if I look at them and think, where do I actually think Palace can keep a clean sheet? Villa at home, potentially. Away at Leeds, that's a tough game. Away at United, probably not. Everton, Southampton, Watford, maybe there, yes. And Norwich, yep. So maybe it's just 19, 14, 15. But that means I wouldn't be bringing him at the moment if I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet in 2 of the next 3. And Villa looked good, and they just conceded 3 to Burnley. So I probably wouldn't be racing to go and get them in, because their fixtures for the short term are not that great. Nor are Livramento's, but I don't necessarily think it's worth a transfer unless you are having to start them. Like Leicester at home, Brighton at home for Southampton. In theory, I prefer that to Villa, Leeds United for Palace. And the attacking threat that Livramento has. Yes, Gray scored, but it was a rebound from a set piece. So some upcoming news about Pochettino also from Man United. So I think we have to real wait and see what happens. Well, they play Chelsea this week. The issue is with them is because of how fast their fixtures fall. If they don't do something this week about bringing in a long-term manager, they're not going to have any time with the squad between games. It's going to be recovery, a day of preparation for the next game, and then the match. There's not going to be that time to really put a new system in place, which would worry me as a United. If I was a United fan, I'm not, but it would worry me because he wouldn't have a time to put in a new system and to really make changes that you would want a manager, because they now play from next weekend. Well, even from now, Champions League, game week 13, game week 14, game week 15, Champions League, game week 16. Then it's a cup semi-final, cup quarter-final. Then Boxing Day, game week 20, game week 21. If I've added up my game weeks correctly. But there's no space for preparation for a new manager to put a system in, which I think is hard for United to really get anything out of someone if they do bring him in. What do I think of Rafinha? He's been such a good differential apart from this week. So I sold Rafinha this week. And the reasoning for it, now I think Rafinha at his price is good. And actually over the next 3, if he's fit for 13, then you keep him until 15. And then Chelsea away, City away, Arsenal, Liverpool, you probably have to think about selling him. The issue is if we hear that he's either a doubt or not fit for game week 13, because we then have weekend, midweek, weekend. So we have 3 game weeks in a week. If he's out for 13, he could easily be out for 15 as well, very quickly. And this bug that seems to be going around, this virus that people are getting at the moment, that isn't the same virus, but it's a new sort of flu variant, is keeping people out for longer than a week. So wait in here on news. Wait in here is what's said about him, because the next three are good, and I would still expect attacking returns from them given how they played against Spurs. But if he's out for 13, then I would be selling him, because it's a very quick turnaround for 14 and 15 after that. How about Mane? He's looked good. He has, absolutely. The issue with Mane is, A, you want Salah, you want Trent. And if you're going to want Ronaldo as well, you then can't have Mane. So I suppose if you agree to yourself that you don't want Ronaldo for his fixture run, then I really like Mane. And I think he's a good option. But if we're going to ignore Ronaldo for this run of fixtures, you're a braver person than I am. Or any United asset, but they're all expensive. Even if you go Rashford, it's still pretty difficult to get Salah, Mane, Rashford, given the defenders we want as well. So I would love Mane in my team, and I think he's got points in him, but I just don't think, given his price, that I'll be going and getting him in. Our rep says he thinks he'll outscore Foden. I highly agree. I think he probably is, but he is also 4 million more than Foden is. Sorry, Mane. He's done well, but it's just a lot of money to spend. You need to decide on whether you want Mane or whether you want Ronaldo. And it's a tough call. But the only other thing that I think about with these things, if I'm now tripling up on Liverpool, is the bonus points that come into it. If you've got 3 players from the same team, they all do well, you can only get, in theory, 3-2-1 bonus points for your third Liverpool player, which is 6. But if you have players from different teams, then you can get more. It's just a little thing, which is why I don't always triple up on teams. I've got it now. Mane did get any bonus points despite a goal. I like Mane as an option, but I would just think about, from game week 16, Ronaldo becomes a real option again. How does it fit into your thinking that if you can't get Ronaldo in because you've got Mane, which of those two becomes more of a priority for you come that game week? Because if I went Mane, in theory, Jota would have to go, Son would have to go, Mane could come in, Smith Rowe would come in probably. Like, it's fine, but I've had to sell Son to get him. I've had to sell Jota, and then it's practically impossible for me to get to Ronaldo as well, or even a decent United player. Foden would have to go to get that. So yeah, becomes too difficult is my worry. Constitution Pictures asks, already have Trent, James, Chilwell, Cancelo and Livramento, but thinking Livramento out Lamptey in. Even money thoughts. So I would be cautious with that move. The upcoming fixtures for Brighton are not that nice. They're not any nicer than Southampton's, especially the key period that I look at now is 14 to 21. When you're looking at bench players or rotation players, 14 to 21 is the Christmas schedule. 21 is January the 1st. 14 is, in theory, the first midweek where I think we might see more rotation. You can even look from 13, which is this weekend, but 14 to 21. Where do I realistically see Brighton keeping a clean sheet here? Away at West Ham? No. Southampton away? Potentially. Tottenham at home? Unlikely. Wolves potentially there. But then United away? Brentford maybe? Again, it's pretty difficult. And my issue is, with Lamptey, is that I still, despite him coming back and despite him being really attacking, I just don't see him playing every week given his previous injuries, whereas I think Livramento will. So I wouldn't be making that move. I don't think Livramento, there are better options at his price. If you're upgrading him, then fine. But I don't think there are better options at his price to go from Livramento. What do I think about Danny Ings? His price has dropped and Steven Gerrard is a very attacking manager. Yeah, so let's have a chat on some of the games. So we'll go and do anything we haven't touched on, basically. Villa, Brighton is one we haven't done. So Mings and Watkins got the goals. So, of course, those two stand out as ones. Watkins is cheaper. What price are they at exactly now? Aston Villa. Aston Villa. So Ings at 7.7, Watkins at 7.3. Ings playing through the middle. It seems to be the way they'll want to go. I don't mind that at all. Game week 17. The issue is I would wait until game week 17. They play City and Liverpool in the next 4, as well as Leicester and Palace away, who we've been discussing is not a bad defence to go and buy. So I would give yourself 4 weeks. I don't think an option of Ings or Watkins are bad picks at all, but I wouldn't want them until then. And then that gives you 4 weeks to work out which of those 2 options that you want to be going with. I don't think Villa picks are bad at all. We could even look target at 4.7 for that run of Norwich, Burnley, Leeds, Brentford in those 4. Again, is a nice pick. But just give yourself 4 weeks more to see what happens, to see how they play, to see how they adapt, both going forward and defensively. Just see it out a little bit more with these tough fixtures and then go in if you want and you still think they're good options. And I'm sure they could potentially be for Norwich in game week 17. But until then, I just want to wait. I don't think there's enough upside to go jumping on them now when I could just wait for a little bit more information. Cool. So yeah, those of you watching, those of you joining, if you could just leave a like on the stream, that would be much appreciated. For any of you who have never seen my face before and are thinking, who is this guy on the Hub channel? I used to write a weekly differential thread, but I will now be doing this Monday weekly reaction stream every Monday from 6 till 7 or 6:30 till 7:30 if I can't quite make 6 after work. There will be this stream. We'll talk about key sort of talking points on the game we've just gone while everything is fresh in our minds. All of this good stuff. If you do like FPL content, I do have a channel of my own, which I upload to a few times a week, videos as well as doing live streams there as well. And there is a link in the description down below to my channel, FPL Harry. You can just search into Google, into YouTube as well. If you fancy going and subscribing to me over there, that would be great. But this stream will be back every Monday to talk about the game week just gone. It will not clash with it won't clash with the evening game if there is one. That's why we did it 6 till 7 or 6:30 till 7:30, because as much as we love FPL, if there is a live match on, people want to watch that as well. But every Monday, now, end of the season, we will be back here. Over Christmas, we may try and put a few more on as well, but that's the plan. And it's more of a Q&A, so we're happy to just talk about your teams, questions like we've done tonight. But yeah, any feedback while we're doing it. First stream, just getting my bearings. But yeah, do let me know. Paul says it's a great first show, and Constitution Pictures says well done. So I hope it's been enjoyable, but we'll be back every week. Nice to see Magic Master Tricks in here as well. Big supporter, thank you. So Kaza has asked, hi Harry, nice to see you here. How are you doing? What do I think of Antonio to Benteke and Mbuemo to Jota? So my issue with it, and I'm not on the selling Antonio train, is come game week 16, you will want Antonio in your team, not having Benteke. If you find a way to then maybe go Bowen over Antonio, I can understand it a little bit. But just think to yourself, if I'm going to make those moves, A, is Jota going to be fit? Fine. If he is, then those moves are fine. But B, come game week 16, I will want a West Ham player. How do I go and get them in? And where is going to be that place that I go and get them? Because from game week 16, their run of fixtures is great over Christmas. And having good fixtures over Christmas is key. Son and Antonio or Ronaldo and Rafinha. So if they were in my team at the moment, I would want Son and Antonio. I wouldn't be going Rafinha to bring in now. I would go to someone else down around that price, because those Leeds fixtures are okay for the very short term, but after that they get much more difficult. I've got Aston Villa players in. Again, Rafinha, wait on injury news, just like with Jota. Wait and see what they say about him. The next 3 are good, but they come very quickly. So if he's not going to be fit for 13, chances are he won't be fit for 14 and 15 either. So again, just wait on the news for them. I wouldn't be bringing in Rafinha, especially if he's a doubt. If he's not a doubt and you want a 3-game week punt on him, then fine. But come game week 16, you'll probably want to move him on again anyway. So I wonder if there are better options in there to go and get him. Is it okay to transfer in Mane? Sorry, Kieran asks, best Havertz replacement. I like Jota. I like Bernardo Silva. Foden if he's fit. Foden I still like. Bernardo Silva, Jota if he's fit. Gallagher would probably be the ones that I'd be looking at. Is it okay to transfer in Mane for Foden for a short punt until Ronaldo fixture comes? Yes, it is. It's very short term. It's 3 game weeks, which are Southampton at home, Everton away, Wolves away. If you've got nowhere else to use your transfers, the only issue is then to go Mane to Ronaldo is 2 free transfers, which is then, if you use one this week, you then have 1 transfer, then you need to roll it, and then you can use it. It's very quick turnaround if you're not going to be taking hits. That, although I like Mane for the next 3, I can't imagine that there are no other places in your team that you want transfers. It feels very luxury. Very luxury at the moment. Chalobah to Ben Johnson and Mbeumo to Gallagher. Diaz to James for -4. I worry about Ben Johnson keeping his place. If he's going to sit last on your bench, and Ivan the same, if he's going to sit last on your bench, then fine. Second on your bench, it would worry me. Definitely not if he's going to be first on your bench. The rest of the moves, Mbeumo to Gallagher I like, and Diaz to James I like. If you need Chalobah to Ben Johnson to free up the money, then I can understand doing it. I just don't like it as a hit, especially with Mbeumo playing Everton this week. Those Everton injuries are not doing good for them. So I wouldn't do it for a hit, because I would keep Mbeumo this week. If you have to go Ben Johnson, fine. There are a few other cheap options down there. Try and squeeze out some money, but I like those moves overall, but I wouldn't do it for a hit. I'd wait on the Mbeumo to Gallagher moves. Is it too late to buy Cancelo now? No. If you still look at him at the price comparison, if you look at a try and buy a midfielder or a forward for 6.6 million, he's still better value than all of those others. He will outscore them all this season. So you may have missed out on the value a little bit, and I understand that it is horrible having to look at it, but I wouldn't worry about the price. He's still better value than anyone else at that price in other positions. Akbar, appreciate that. Yeah. Twitter, the link is below. My YouTube, the link is below to my pages. I will be back here every week for you. So I look forward to seeing some familiar faces in these reaction streams to talk about your teams. The whole game week just gone. I'm looking forward to it. I was very excited to get started this evening. Who do I think the best replacement is for Rafinha for game week 16? So let me just hide this a minute, and I'm just going to pull up Fantasy Football Hub fixture ticker from then. Straight away, if you don't have, because I need to log in, don't want to be showing you all that. If you don't have Gallagher straight away, then he stands out for me as the go-to pick. I'm going to pull up the fixture ticker just a moment. Cool, there we go. So if you don't have Gallagher already, he still stands out for me. From game week 16, we'll go to, let's put it to 22. Maybe, yeah, 22 in terms of attack. Palace comes out on top. It's Gallagher if you don't have him. West Ham next, Bowen. Those would be the 2. I think Cornet you could go to from Burnley. I probably wouldn't be looking outside of those 3. They are good options at the moment, and their fixtures are... Sorry, I was reading a comment in the chat. Bowen, Gallagher, Cornet, the top 3 replacement. Watford's fixtures aren't bad if Sarr continues to perform, potentially, but I would back the other 3 before him. People are absolutely mental. You can't just bring in Kane for a 4-week punt and panic sell him. Yeah, I agree. And on paper, this was always going to be the hardest fixture out of the upcoming games for them. Leeds at home, they've been much better. Burnley, Brentford, Norwich next. You keep them for at least the next 2. Keep them for the next 3. So Tony and White to Cancelo and a 4.4 forward. Jerome, if that is how you can do it, then absolutely. I don't know what it does to your bench because you're selling 2 players that start for 1 player. And again, just think about it over Christmas, but I would make those moves. Do I think getting Son and Kane is necessary with their run of fixtures? No. Especially given the way they played yesterday. I think there'll still be returns in them, particularly Kane. But I wouldn't be selling them for sure. If you don't have anything else to do, I still think there's a lot of potential over the next 3 for them. So it could be a great place to go and buy still. I wouldn't be running to them, but I still like them if you've got them. I wouldn't necessarily go and buy them. Kane I would buy. Son I probably wouldn't now, but I wouldn't be selling them. Is it the right time to sell Ronaldo for Kane? Definitely not now with Ronaldo against Chelsea and the fixture run Spurs have. Just wait on it a few weeks. Would I take a -4 to take out Mbuemo and Antonio for Jota? Sorry, Matthew. Can you for Jota, Ralph? Oh, Jota and Jimenez. If Jota's fit, it's a lot of money. The issue is you'll have money tied up in Antonio. In theory, those moves pay off over the next 2 weeks. But it's if you were and if Jota's fit. But if you have a lot of money tied up in Antonio, what are you going to do in game week 16 when you potentially want him back? If you don't want him back or you go to Bowen instead, then that's fine. And I think those moves pay off for a -4 given Jota is fit. But I would just bear that in mind. Am I worried that Eze will take some space away from Gallagher to run into? A little bit, but I still think the way he plays, Gallagher only knows one way to play, and that is fast, box-to-box, with Kouyaté behind him. Whether it's McCarthy, or whether it's Milivojevic behind him, that box-to-box role still suits him so well. I'm not expecting him to score goals every week, but I'm expecting him to tick along, attacking returns. Any cheap options for Ben Johnson with similar price? Chance of having good game time. It's not great at that price. Let's put it down here and we go. If we go, is there a minutes played? Ooh. Aaron's, if you can get to. Brandon Williams, did he play this week? Yeah. They are Watford defenders. Did Manquillo start this week? No. The issue is you take a gamble on Johnson or you go for a Norwich defender who are not going to score you any points anyway. I probably would go Johnson over going for one of those Norwich defenders, because if they start, I don't really want them anyway, so I'd probably take the gamble on them. I would try and find 0.3 to go up to the likes of a Watford guy, whether it's Duffy, whether it's Ait-Nouri, for example. So I would, if you only had 4, I'd go Johnson over one of the Norwich guys, but I don't love it either way. Time has flown by. It's 7 o'clock. I will rattle through the last few questions and then we'll be back next Monday to do this all over again. It's gone so fast and I'm glad to see there's 170 of you guys in here watching and listening. Who would be the best third City player to go for? Cancelo, Foden. Probably double defence in Diaz, or you go Bernardo Silva would be the 2 that I'd go with. I helped you to get 30k overall rank last year on your first year, always answering questions on his streams. Interesting addition to the hub. Hope interesting in a good way. Let me know. But yeah, appreciate it. Thinker, thoughts on the best cheap mid Havertz being sold for budget? Thinking sub 4.4. Højbjerg, the other one that I do like is Gilmore. The role that I think he'll play now at Norwich is good. I would be picking him over Brownhill. Got an assist this week as well on set pieces. If you can't afford Højbjerg, then Gilmore would be the one. All the stuff that people said about Gilmore pre-game week 1 is definitely now coming true. Is Cornet a good differential to consider based on? Yes, I do like it. I'd be selling Benrahma. Cornet, Gallagher. Who else was top of the fixtures? Cornet, Gallagher, Bowen are all good options, but I wouldn't be buying Bowen now. I'd wait till game week 16. So Cornet and Gallagher, definitely ones that I like. Yeah, the Burnley run of fixtures, he is definitely. Let's get him up. Tottenham, Wolves, Newcastle, Watford in the next few. Definitely goals in that for him. Dennis and Ronaldo. Right, last question. Dennis and Ronaldo up top soon. 3-5-2. Again, yes, if you're going to have Bowen in your midfield. The issue is there are so many good midfielders, so having Antonio allows you to free up that extra spot, whereas Bowen just competes with them all, which is why I want to keep him. But I do like the Watford fixtures coming up are nice, and Ronaldo is a great option. Should you downgrade Ronaldo or Kane for a hit to get Trent? I wouldn't want to. Probably the issue is I'd probably say Ronaldo this week, but in 3 weeks' time you'll probably want to do Kane to Ronaldo. See you on the next one. Enjoyed the show. Good time for you, everyone in New Zealand. Good. Matthew, come on lad. You've not heard Harriet ask for any likes or subscribers. See if you hit that like. Yeah. So we are going to wrap up the stream there. While you are here, we are 14 likes away from 100. So if we could hit that before you all head off, that would be great. Please do subscribe to the Hub channel while you are here. Once you have subscribed, if you've watched all the Hub videos, there is a link in the description to my channel, FPL Harry. Please head over there. I released a video yesterday, so go and check that out and subscribe to my channel as well if you wouldn't mind. We'll be back every week. I do hope you have enjoyed. Always available on Twitter as well. My DMs are open to answer any of your questions if you haven't had them answered today. But please like, subscribe here, subscribe over there with the link in the description, and I will see you all next Monday. Thank you all. Let me get this set up. First time we're doing this, but I will see you all next Monday. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know the feedback in the comment section right now while I head off. We'll leave it running for a minute for you. Feedback welcome, and I will see you all next week. Thanks all.